Hello everyone and welcome back, and as I promised, here is your death battle review. Now, of course, we're going to watch the death battle so that way you don't have to give death battle the views and then we'll talk about it. You all know the drill by now, so let's get started.
Okay, that's interesting.
You're not the first doofus to try to take this. It's hero time!
Lights out, Toxie. Come on, kid. Let's stop this before it gets heated. Hey, you ever seen a supernova? Several, actually. Ha! You're so lame. I bet I could even beat you as Gray Man.
What? I didn't mean literally.
Cute.
Now, I'm sure that a lot of you are hoping to see me rant and rip this death battle apart, but to be honest, this death battle really isn't that bad. Yeah, the results may be a little bit controversial, and I'll get to that, but considering what's here, it's really not that bad. And I was genuinely surprised. So, where to start? Well, the characters are represented pretty well, the dialogue is good, and from what I understand, even other Ben 10 fans were impressed at some of the attention to detail here. So, I have to give credit there. And the fight, for the most part, it's well animated. However, it lacks in creativity. While I love what they did with the animation here, considering the possibilities of what could have been done here, they definitely leave a lot more to be desired. I mean, considering the possibilities here, they could have done so much more, but because they're so used to setting up these Dragon Ball-esque fights, they lose a lot of potential in what can be done with not only Ben 10, considering all the aliens he has at his disposal, and the power that Alien X is capable of, and of course we have Green Lantern, whose power is literally only limited by his imagination. There's definitely so much more that could have been done here, rather than a bunch of punching. And I am going to give credit for the animation, however it also loses points for a lack of creativity and imagination. And the music is fine, I suppose. However, as you saw, I kind of inserted my own music here, because when it comes to epic music, Death Battle definitely fails in that category more times than they succeed. So I decided to fix that for them. But what else do we have here? The analysis is fine, and I was genuinely impressed at some of the feats that they brought up. Again, surprising even Ben 10 fans. So I'll give them credit for the analysis, however as for the end results, again, they kind of shoot themselves in the foot, because there is some areas where they fuck up, such as forgetting that the Omnitrix has its own self-defense failsafes. So cutting off his hand wouldn't work. It would have just been far more realistic if Green Lantern just showed up and killed him, rather than cutting off his arm and then killing him, because realistically that wouldn't work. However though, I do have my own issues with this death battle, and that being they used non-canon material. Now, I looked into this, and apparently the version of Ben that had the Master Control is no longer canon. So Ben should not have had the Master Control, and they should not have given that to him. Now, I understand that it makes sense for him to have the Master Control, but you can't use non-canon material. So they really just shouldn't have done that. And that should have put Ben at a great disadvantage. And if Ben lost due to not having the Master Control, I think even Ben 10 fans would acknowledge that, yeah, that makes logical sense. And I think that it was very stupid of them to do that. Now granted, we know that Death Battle will use non-canon material if it works in their favor, however they just really shouldn't have done that here. Because it definitely causes all kinds of issues, because then it just leads the Marvel fans to think, well, why didn't you use non-canon material when it came to Carnage? So that was very dumb of them to do. And another thing I have is this. So you have one character who has constantly shown at his best to be able to be capable of universal level feats, and you have another character that survived a multiversal attack. So logically, shouldn't Green Lantern still win regardless, because one is multiversal and the other is universal? And since these two have similar powers, that they both are capable of existence erasure and time travel abilities, realistically, if they can just perfectly counteract one another, it would either A, lead to a stalemate, or B, the only possible way in which Ben could have won would be just outlasting Green Lantern until the ring runs out of power. And I will acknowledge that that is a reasonable way in which Ben could win, However, the thing is, they're not necessarily equal here. Outside of having similar powers, Green Lantern is stronger, and since the Versus community constantly says that level is what matters here, and if there is a power gap, it makes everything else irrelevant, logically, shouldn't Green Lantern win? That would be my question to the Versus community. However, I'm not necessarily ignoring that there is alternative ways that Ben could win. I won't ignore that. However, for what is here, it is a fairly solid death battle, and it is entertaining. I'll even concede that some of the humor is done a little bit better here. However, they do bring up a completely made-up fact about the weakness of the Omnitrix just for the sake of a joke, and I really wish they didn't do that, because you should never make up facts just for the sake of a stupid joke. Death Battle really needs to tone down the jokes a little bit more. Now, overall, what would I give this? Well, again, it's not mind-numbingly boring like something Aquaman versus Namir. However, it's not insultingly infuriating like Yang versus Tifa or Naruto versus Ichigo. It's fine and serviceable. And I would give it a 6 out of 10. It's really not that bad. I know that the controversy is probably going to blow up in Death Battle's face, but considering the ass-fucking match that we are in for next time on Death Battle, there are much bigger things to bitch about here, people. Let's be honest. And if you're a Ben 10 fan, I can understand you being pissed off. However, I can also acknowledge that this is why I'm a huge advocate for don't take two characters that have powers that are similar to one another and have each other fight, because unless there's a power gap, the characters are going to inevitably stalemate one another. And if Green Lantern was not able to survive a multiversal attack, I would say that these two characters being even actually works against the fight, because then the characters would just inevitably keep countering one another due to the fact that they have the same similar powers, and they would just stalemate each other, with the only way of Ben winning being waiting for the Lantern to run out of juice. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on that. 6 out of 10, perfectly fine and serviceable. Honestly, it could have been worse. But probably the reason why I'm a little bit more forgiving is because of the insult we're going to be in for. And I might end up making another video on that. I don't know. But if you've seen my previous video, you already know what I think about Whis versus Mitsuru. I'm not going to go off on that again. So, what did you all think of Ben 10 versus Green Lantern? Did you like it? Did you think it was bullshit? And do you want more Death Battle reviews? And I'm sorry if I might sound a little bit out of it, but like I said, I'm starting to grow a little sick and tired of Death Battle's bullshit. However, if you all still want these reviews, I will give them to you, and I'll try to find ways to make these a little bit more entertaining, rather than sounding like I want to blow my brains out. So, I'll see you guys around for the next video.